The whole Liam Kumar Day effect. Not really happening.
Nigel couldn't make it.
Yeah.
I rang up Mendenhall, he said he could make it.
Don't dig this hole. Phil, credit to the guy, he always manages to do well what he has, but he is a shocking person on that. You guys got a trophy? No.
It was pre-vim.
Nah, my life from Rashad Mendenhall.
Right, here we go. Cancel. I'm a tag, Jack! I'm a fucking tag!
Hello and welcome to another episode of the LOC Report, and today you can tell if you're watching on video it will be a solo pod just by me, hence the name of the episode, the Commissioner's Soliloquy. So get ready to hear a lot of my voice, which I suppose you already do anyway, but usually less than Chris's. We're into the season now. We'll be looking back at the week 1 action, recapping stuff that's happened in between, talking about some other stuff, but of course previewing the week 2 matchups as well. It was great to see the NFL back again. And to be playing in fantasy again, especially in a bit more normal circumstances as well. So we'll be covering all that for you today. As I am on my own, if you are watching live, please do interact with the show. It would be good to interact with someone, because otherwise it's just going to be me going on one big tangent probably. And speaking of a big tangent, how about we get into some league news? We're well into the thick of it. We've had our first trade of the LOC season already, and that trade saw Gridiron Gang trade Michael Carter, 8th round draft pick, to UR Gold for Chase Claypool, who was their 6th round auto draft pick. So when this trade came out, I won't comment too much as I was obviously a member of it. I was obviously happy to get Claypool, but the consensus I think in the league was that Gridiron Gang probably got the better of this side, and as we'll see in a second, there may have been something that happened this week that already cemented that. So I believe the first outside of keepers trade that's happened before week 1 has even started, so that's a new thing for the LOC, which we've not had before. It took us 12 years, but we finally had it. On to the key injuries. We're going to do a key injury section. We, of course, recap the injuries in the game previews as well. But talking about key injuries, Jerry Jeudy unfortunately went down for Gridiron Gang. He had his ankle rolled up, and it looked a lot worse. They brought the cut out for him, but it was a high ankle sprain that he had in the end, so he's on IR now, expected to miss anywhere between 4 to 8 weeks is kind of the timeline that's come out. But he is on reserve now. And the other key injury of the week was Raheem Mostert. Now, everyone knew this one was going to happen at some point. Unfortunately, for bucking the trend, it happened not long into the first game of the season. He chipped his knee cartilage, and he will be having a surgical procedure to remedy that, but that unfortunately does keep him out for the rest of the season. So, bad break there for bucking the trend. Onto the waiver wire then. So we have some key moves this week. There's always some action and some big money spent in week 1, though not quite as much as Coach Wells that 1 year where he did spluff his entire budget in week 1. But talking of spluff and budget, Napolitans, they added Christian Kirk for $31. And they dropped Tyler Boyd in a corresponding move. So Christian Kirk for $31. He did go off, I believe, for 2 touchdowns in the game last week. And Kyler Murray obviously looked in very good form. It's a lot to spend, to be quite honest. I would have expected Eli Mitchell to be the highest spent player. 70 yards and 2 TDs there. I would have expected Eli Mitchell to be the highest paid for player this week. So to see Kirk go for 31, and we've seen this before with the Cardinals receivers, Nuke's the top dog there. He's going to get his, and then the guys behind him are all probably going to rotate, certainly with the running backs in there as well. So, Kirk has been a presence in that receiver room for a few years. He's competing up against a rookie in Rondale Moore and what looks like a washed-up AJ Green. So perhaps this is the year that he steps up with Larry Fitzgerald gone as well and establishes himself as that number 2 receiver. Napolitans certainly hope he will after spending that amount on him in week 1. And the other of the three big money moves we had, Gridiron Gang added Eli or Elijah Mitchell, or whatever you want to call him, for Jason Myers, and they added him for $27. Now, Eli Mitchell obviously came into the game for the 49ers after Raheem Mostert got injured. And he proceeded to rumble for 100 yards and a touchdown, and I think he had some receiving yards. So that was 104 yards and a touchdown. So a good outing for him, and not quite a full game's worth of work. There's a few sides to this story. The Niners running backs, as a backfield as a whole, is a very good source of fantasy points typically, but picking that particular running backs that's going to actually do well on a certain week is more difficult. But we all know they're a run-heavy team, so he was going to attract some big money. From my personal opinion, I was quite happy to get him for 27. It's probably a bit richer, certainly compared to what the fantasy analysts have said, anywhere between 15 to 25% of budget, so a little bit higher than that. But I think out of anyone in the league, you'll probably agree it makes the most sense for me to have him as the Trey Sermon owner, who was a surprise and active on Sunday, and obviously this allowed Eli Mitchell to emerge. It made sense for me to go after him, to try and maybe hopefully lock up that backfield, maybe even have two fantasy relevant backs. We shall see. And then the final big money and interesting waiver move we had this week was Jameis Winston for $18. And that he was claimed by UR Gold, and they dropped Michael Carter. I said about earlier the trade, he has already dropped the player he received in that trade, so it does look like he's stuck in the three-way committee. Could emerge as the season goes on. Did certainly look to be better than the three, but or at least better than Coleman, but yeah, we'll see. But speaking about Jameis Winston, so he obviously threw for 5 touchdowns on the weekend against a fairly good Packers defense, though if you hear about their defensive coordinator, who was the coordinator at the time of the Lions 0-16 season, and he's never had a good defense. I think all his defenses have ranked 31st or worst as a DC, so maybe not that surprising. But yeah, he did it on just under 150 passing yards, which is pretty insane. And compared to, I think, every 4 attempts, he threw a touchdown. He only threw 20 passes in this game. So your gold will be hoping. He obviously pays off that $18. We saw a similar bid for Justin Herbert last year, and Winston has been a fantasy usable quarterback before. He obviously had turnover issues, so if Sean Payton's able to erase that part of his game and keep obviously the good part, then this could be a great ad. Though for now it does appear UR Gold will be rolling out Baker Mayfield again against the Texans this week. Is there anything else I wanted to add on that? I don't think so. I was going to say about the money. So $18, it was a funny one here, because I, of course, being another team that needed a quarterback, was bidding on him as well, and I think it was probably always going to be a case of me and Ollie bidding against each other, us being the two teams that could do with a good quarterback. My bid was 9 in the end. I think it got up to 13 at one point, but so maybe a little bit of an overpay there. Again, it's certainly compared to what the analysts say, but I was kind of the mindset, if he does turn out to be the real deal, then hey, it doesn't really matter in the end, just like we saw with Tom's Tyrants last year with Justin Herbert. So going to the trade block, so no one has given me any trade block names at the moment, but although maybe Matthew Stafford is available for Detonators, I think he did post that up in the chat. But for my team, pretty much anyone on my bench and reserve is available. So Eli Mitchell and Trey Sermon, happy to trade them as a package. Chase Claypool, Jared Judy, Sonny Michel and Jacoby Myers, all on the trade block there. And yeah, as I said, I'm looking for a QB really. Yeah, depending what the offer is, I could maybe include some other guys and depending who I get back. So that is this week's news. So we will just go straight onto the week 1 recap then, and we will start with the marquee matchup of last week, which I believe was Gridiron Gang against Ross's team. So here we go, the week 1 recap. Coach Nunn came out to defend his title in week 1, and well, he's off to a good start in the defense of it, taking a 107 to 87 point win of the Gridiron Gang. When we look down, you can see on the chart there that Ross's team was behind early in this one, but they caught up, and it was a comfortable lead in the end. And the main driver of that catch-up was Patrick Mahomes, who had 40 points against Cleveland there at the 9 p.m. game, really leading the team to victory. But Darren Waller also had a nice performance on Monday Night Football with 17. Sterling Shepard, who Ross plugged into the lineup before the game started, and I think the alternative at the time was Logan Thomas, so obviously didn't make a difference for the game, but in terms of a result, far better with 17 points there. Darrell Henderson also with 15, and that was enough for Ross's team. On the other side of the ball, Gridiron Gang, they had some good performances from DeAndre Hopkins, who got 20, Tyler Lockett, who got 22, and then AJ Brown getting 11 there. Robert Woods just shy of 10 as well, and the Broncos did 9. But the real letdown for Gridiron Gang here was the quarterback Matt Ryan, who only got 7 points on the day, one of the lowest QB scores you would see. So the record between these teams all time now, Ross moves slightly further ahead with a 7-5 record against Gridiron Gang. So talking about this game then, so yeah, my team obviously jumped out to an early lead, and to be quite honest, if you told me that Matt Ryan got 7 points and my kicker got 4 points, but I still end up with 87 points, I'd say that's pretty fairly good going. Actually, I'm going to even enhance that. If you told me Matt Ryan, Ezekiel Elliott and my kicker all combined for about 15 points and I still got to 87, I would probably have told you were crazy at the start of the week. It's a sign of good things to come from my point of view. So I think the team can definitely improve. I just need to find that quarterback. So, you know, it's week 1. It's tough. You never win. I never win in week 1 anyway. So it's basically the preseason for me. So I'm happy with how the team did. But for Ross, great day at the office. It didn't start off particularly well. As I said, he was down for much of the early window, but I believe it was only his kicker and defense playing. You know, we talk about auto-drafted teams. It fell nicely for Ross last year. It didn't look like it fell too nicely for Ross this year. But Patrick Mahomes is going to be a guy that is going to constantly put up points and give this team at least some sort of a floor. So if they get anything else, it'll get them over the line, and that's exactly what happened here with the 3 flex players in a row there. Darren Waller, Sterling Shepard, and Darrell Henderson. Waller profiles to be an absolute target hog in that Raiders offense, so he did well on Monday night. Sterling Shepard, he did well in week 1. He did, if not no spoilers, but Thursday night game yesterday, he did fairly well as well. So he's looking like a good addition to this team. And Darrell Henderson, for now, is the full-on lead back there. I think Sonny Michel only got a carry or 2 there near the end of the game. You know, and he's got guys like Devontae Adams and Allen Robinson that didn't combine for even 10 points there. That's not going to happen every week. The Packers looked awful, and he was going up against Lattimore much of the day. Same deal for Robinson, really. He was going up against Jalen Ramsey. So to get to 107 without those 2 players as well for Ross, I talk about my team doing it without some players. 107 without those 2 is phenomenal as well for Ross. And you can turn to the bench. Auto Draft has been very kind once again to Ross, it seems. Rob Gronkowski rolling back the years on the opening game of the season with 21 points. Dallas Goedert 10, Logan Thomas 9, Devin Singletary. Zach Moss was bizarre and active, so it's happened again. How has Ross completely lucked into the auto draft here? This year it didn't look kind at all, but he has. Good win for Ross to open the season. A bit of a rough outing for Gridiron Gang, but that was mainly down to Matt Ryan. So good marquee matchup for week 1 there. Our next game then was Forge Flies against Bare Necessities. Bare Necessities and Forge Flyers took on. It's a founding team battle, and Bare Necessities came out on top 108 to 82. Looking down the lineups for Bare Necessities, Danger Russ, they're letting him cook. It seems, as he threw 4 touchdown passes en route to 35 fantasy points. Also had an assist from DeAndre Swift, who got 16, Travis Kelce 20, and Tyler Bass with 11 points there as well. On the other side of the ball, look, the good for Forge Flyers, Joe Mixon looks like a bona fide RB1. He got 21 points. Cooper Kupp maybe getting his form back with a better quarterback than Goff there. 17 points, and Marquise Brown as well with 13 points there. Chris Carson basically 10 as well. But what really hurt Forge Flyers, and it might not have been the difference in this game, but it certainly didn't help. Aaron Rodgers with just over 1 point there. Maybe him being out of the off-season for so long did have an impact, but it really sunk Forge Fly's hopes for week 1. But Bare Necessities take the win, and the history of this matchup all time. Bare Necessities get a bit closer in this one. They now move to 7-11 all time against Forge Flies. So looking down this, Russell Wilson, he was primed for a good season. Their new OC comes from the Rams, who's prioritised, he's much better at the pass game than the previous coordinator. So he looked very good. He's going to be very good for Bare Necessities all season long. And it was a strange week, because again, Stephon Diggs, one of these high guys who didn't do much, but that kind of makes sense against that stout Pittsburgh secondary. But then you have guys like DeAndre Swift, who it profiled to be a really tough matchup. He was in danger of missing week 1 completely, and to be honest wasn't doing much until the Detroit fell so far behind that the Niners practically put their second string D in, and then he got some garbage time production there. But hey, points count, it's probably going to happen. Travis Kelce obviously doing Travis Kelce things with 20 points there, no surprises, but not a lot else there. You do worry, I think, for Bare Necessities, because Mike Evans, he's the kind of the thing with the Bucks receivers is, they're all going to be they're all going to have their weeks, but they're not going to hit those upper numbers, and this is unfortunately probably going to happen for Mike Evans occasionally, and Mike Davis as well. That Falcons offense was rough in week 1. They can't block. They're going to fall behind in games and probably have to use Patterson as opposed to Mike Davis as they're going to catch up. So a good win in week 1 for Bare Necessities, and Diggs should have better days, but certainly not ideal signs there. On the other side of the ball, before we go to the benches, it's all about Aaron Rodgers on this. He should improve. He's got to improve, right? I know he had that 1 year in the first year of Matt LaFleur's scheme where he didn't look particularly good. Last year was great. I think you've got to chalk this up, maybe just him coming back late, in the off season, probably not quite into form yet. Playing a tough Saints D, also playing in a very different weather environment in Jacksonville compared to Green Bay. So just a bad day at the office. Better days ahead. You look down again, similar thing to my team. 82 points with Aaron Rodgers, Derrick Henry commanding for less than 10 points. I think Chris will be more than happy with that. Mixon looks like the real deal. Kupp could be the top receiver once again in LA. Marquise Brown chipping in on a team that looks like it's going to have to pass more with all the running back injuries they've had there in Baltimore, and Chris Carson as well. Didn't get a touchdown on the day, so to get 10 points without a TD is pretty good going. Bad day for Forward Flyers, but nothing to be worried about with this team, certainly at this point anyway, going forward in the season. If we take a look to the benches at the start of Bare Necessities, why do they still have Adrian Peterson? You got to change that. Come on. I already spoke about there's some risks on that team. He needs to be adding someone that might inject a bit of life into the team. But you look elsewhere though, and I didn't actually realise my dad had both Mike Evans and Antonio Brown. That's going to be annoying. So wouldn't surprise me if he chose and trades one of them. Melvin Gordon as well. Kind of surprising to me he didn't get into the week 1 lineup, because what you see with I know Javonte Williams is there, but what you normally see with these guys is the established guy, like Raheem Mostert, will go out there to begin with, and then as the season goes on, the other guy might chip away and take more of the role. But this is what I'm talking about. The starting lineup this week wasn't completely good for Bare Necessities. There was meat on the bone. I mean, gosh, they could have a really nice score in week 1 if they had some different lineup choices. And then they also have Jamal Williams as well, both Detroit running backs. Strange roster construction there from my dad's team, but he did well as well. And again, if they're going to get garbage time production, he should do quite well. On the other side, for Forge Flyers, they didn't have much option to turn to. Really not a lot to write home about. That obviously Tonyan had a bad day just because Rodgers is same deal with Cobb. Beckham didn't play because that ACL injury, didn't quite make it back for week 1. Parker, he looked okay, but you do worry with Will Fuller coming back into the lineup, and Golladay as well. Should be the number 1 receiver in that offense. I know Sterling Shepard seems to do quite well, but as he has gets more in sync with Daniel Jones, he should have some good days. So, I think good seasons ahead you could see for both of these teams. Bare Necessities gets the win in week 1. On to the next game of the week. Then we have Tom's Tyrants against the Dream Team. Tom's Tyrants faced the Dream Team, and this game was a good one as it finished really close. Dream Team did take the win, 107 to 105, but it was a doozy. And if we look down the lineup, the Dream Team, it was all about Tyreek Hill and Corey Davis there, really. Tyreek Hill getting 26 points, including a 75-yard touchdown, and Corey Davis as well, 2 touchdowns and 22 points there. So they were leading the charge for this team, and then really just a solid team effort elsewhere. Steelers D got 15 points as they really bottled up a good Bills offense. Austin Eckler got 12. And Justin Herbert, he only got 15, but it was enough to get them over the line there. On the other side, tough loss to take for Tom's Tyrants. You go over 100 points, and against many of the other teams, they would have had a week 1 win, but it wasn't to be. Kyler Murray was absolutely stellar for them. He got 42 points. Deebo Samuel as well, with Brandon Ayuk seemingly being a distant option, at least for now, in that receiver's pass game. He rolled with 23 points. Keenan Allen got 10. Antonio Gibson got 9. So again, some complementary players there, but really a lot more top heavy between Murray and Samuel. It just wasn't enough on the day. The history of this matchup all time now, the Dream Team are 511 all time against Tom's Tyrants, so they get a rare win against that team. And yet for the Dream Team, every Dream Team that is good starts the year really well until they fall off, and same once again here, and it's easy to see why. Herbert and Eckler are going to be great. Eckler bizarrely had no targets in this game, which is insane knowing the type of running back he is, but he got many goal line carries, so that's good to see. Herbert's going to have better days. Washington's D is pretty good. Tyreek Hill, obviously he's going to get his. Corey Davis is definitely the top option in that Jets offense. It was against Carolina, so how much is it the team they were facing? We'll see. But then you have guys like Terry McLaurin who didn't do much either. But James Robinson's the interesting one here. He only got 5 points. The worrying thing for him was that Carlos Hyde out-carried him. That should not be happening. Look, Urban Meyer has not had a good start to his tenure in Jacksonville. So the coach Nathwani must be sweating a bit on James Robinson right now. Urban Meyer has come out and said they need to recommit to the run game. Yeah, it's got to be very concerning there for the Dream Team. But hey, they got the win, so it is what it is. It was a solid team effort, as I say. They look well primed to go on into the season. Looking at the bench, they've got Jalen Hurts. There is another QB option. He had a nice day. Jamar Chase, who maybe after that awful preseason, that's all gone to bed now, and he's going to be a good option going forward. Not a lot else there, good day for the Dream Team. On the other side of the ball, Tom's Tyrants, they are going to be disappointed with not getting the win, 105 points only, and maybe more concerning for them is that most of their points came from Kyler Murray. Look, Kyler Murray is going to do that. That's why he invested a 4th round draft pick in him. And they'll take the points where they can get them, especially on a day where Antonio Gibson only got 9 against a good Chargers D, Najee Harris only got 5 against a good Buffalo D, Keenan Allen had a solid 10, but Deebo Samuel did perform above expectation. That probably helped as well. Myles Gaskin, yeah, he's looking a bit iffy at this point. It was against a good New England defense, but they do like to rotate guys and stuff there. So, look, they've got Tyson Williams to turn to at least, which is going to be nice for them going forward. Because even though he didn't get the lion's share, he was the lead back, but they obviously mixed in the other ones quite a bit. But he should step in quite nicely because nobody else on that bench inspires any confidence at the moment. I think Courtland Sutton will be okay. He's obviously coming back from that ACL still, and that's a worry. But with Judy going down, he should be the top dog there now. So, I still think Tom Tyrants is a good team, and they're primed to have a good season. And part of this kind of points should be more spread around in the future, obviously, than where it was concentrated this week. So on to our next game then. We have the Detonators against Pakistan. The Detonators took on Pakistan in week 1, and Pakistan, they had a week to remember as they had the highest points of the week with 120 to the Detonators 85. Looking down the lineups, Tom Brady started off in style with 35 points there. McCaffrey, the number 1 overall pick in the draft, 19 points, what you'd expect. DJ Moore got 9. Chris Godwin got 15. David Montgomery got 18. Harrison Butker got 10. So solid all around there. No player less than 7. En route to that 120. On the other side of the ball for the Detonators, again, it started off pretty well for them. They had Dak Prescott get 33. But then the rest of it, there was some good solid efforts in there from Chase Edmonds. He got 11. Robbie Anderson got 12. And Evan McPherson, the kicker for Cincinnati, got 11 as well. But you look at the guys that really didn't turn up, and it was a common theme across the teams that lost this week. Aaron Jones, Calvin Ridley, his first 2 picks combining for less than 10. And also the Packers D, which was an interesting choice. I know Jameis has a bad history, but I'd have gone another way with as against them in week 1 because they only got 1 point. So frustrating there for the Detonators. The history of this matchup all time, Pakistan is now 5-4 all time against the Detonators. So yeah, I mean, what more can you say about Pat's team? Just a solid team effort. This was widely regarded as one of the best teams coming out of the draft, and it's easy to see why. Because Justin Jefferson was the worst skill player there as their 3rd round draft pick. He should have better days. Montgomery looked good for the Bears. Godwin, I said already about the love's going to be spread around, but as a 4th round draft pick, he's fine. DJ Moore as well, he's probably not going to be that spectacular option, but he's going to get those 10-point weeks quite consistently. McCaffrey as well, and Brady, boy, especially with the running back issues they're having there in Tampa right now, he could be in for a big season. So just a great day for Pat. You look to the bench as well. Kareem Hunt, he did pretty good. Not a lot else there. Obviously they've got Trey Lance, who could come good eventually. Sammy Watkins, I don't know why he cut Sammy Watkins already, because he was one of my nice sleeper receivers in the preseason there, and he nearly 100 yards on the day. So curious choice there, because they haven't got too many options behind Kareem Hunt. In fact, it's pretty much just Kareem Hunt at this stage. So they do like the depth, but with that starting lineup, that's not much of an issue. So really nice day there. As I said, for Ollie's team, look, Dak looks fully back from that injury. That's really good to see. He should be doing well all season long. The worry is, though, with this team, if Aaron Jones and Calvin Ridley don't turn up, I think this is going to be more par for the course with them. Chase Edmonds, Deontay Johnson, Robbie Anderson, they're good complementary guys, but this is probably about what they're going to do on a given week. Might have some better weeks, but they're certainly going to have some worse ones as well. They really need to be relying on Dak, Jones and Ridley, I think, to bring home the bacon. And they should do. I would certainly like to think so. You are worried about the Packers in week 1 with how they looked, especially if they fall behind. It seems they are just going to take Aaron Jones out of the game. And you look at their schedule, it's a pretty rough schedule, but in games they're competitive, he shouldn't have a problem. You also think about David Bakhtiari, their O-line, their left tackle not being there. That's a worry as well. So we'll see. And then Calvin Ridley as well. Again, he had a great year last year. He's obviously the top dog in Atlanta now. Should be doing absolutely great. I think he maybe had Darius Slay. I can't remember if he played or not last week, but for the Eagles, covering him. But still, you would expect a guy like Calvin Ridley to emerge from that. Matt Ryan didn't look particularly good. The O-line didn't look good at all. So Philly D is good, so it's not necessarily time to hit the panic button yet. But the cupboard's a little bare for that Falcons offense. So if teams can just focus in on Ridley, that's definitely a worry for the Detonators team there. You do look to the bench, and again, they've not got a lot of options to turn to as well. They had some nice performances there. Maybe Latavius Murray can develop into a fairly good flex option, but they're excuse me, they're probably really looking to try and flip Stafford for some skill player assistance, because I'm not writing them off at all. Obviously, Jones Ridley will have better days for sure, and certainly you're going to get more than 1 point from your defense. Troubling week 1 for the Detonators, but if we know anything about them, that they'll be able to turn it around. One of the best coaches in the LOC for certain. But anyway, Pat takes the win in this one. So our next game then is your Gold against Napolitans. One recent newcomer to the league in UR Gold and the newest coach in the LOC, filling the boots of the now retired Coach Merritt, is Dave Henderson. Coach Henderson for Napolitans. His debut did not go as he would hoped. It was a close one to begin with, but UR Gold ran away with it in the end. 102 to 75. Looking down the lineup for UR Gold, on a day where your quarterback only gets 13, but you post 102, it's definitely a good day at the office. Dalvin Cook got 14 points, and Thielen got 21 points, rolling back the years there as well. CeeDee Lamb got 16, he looked good. Jarvis Landry without Odell Beckham got 14, and of course the team's namesake Robbie Gould got 14 as well. So good team effort there. Clyde Edwards-Helaire only got 7, the Bears D got 2, but yeah, if they wanted the Bears D, they were going to have to suffer through that Week 1 game against the Rams. On the other side of the ball for Napolitans, some good, definitely some good in here. Excuse me. Lamar Jackson got 20 points in a game where it didn't look like the Ravens were fully firing. Obviously, they're still kind of a bit reeling from the loss of those running backs, but an okay day for him. Jonathan Taylor got 12 points, Devonta Smith 13, he looked good, and Daniel Carlson with 11, but 75 points, which I believe was the lowest on the week last week. Yes, it was. Tough day. But anyway, UR Gold takes this one, and Dave Henderson takes his first loss as an LOC head coach. So we'll start with UR Gold. I mean, boy, talk about another team that's set up to do well. Certainly, while Odell was going to miss games, Jarvis Landry should lead that team and be a usable fantasy receiver. Clyde is worrying, though. He only got 7 points. Now, the Browns D is pretty good, so it's not time to raise the alarms on him yet. But again, it just looks like he hasn't really taken that step forward. It doesn't look like he's that dynamic catching back that they were hoping for. And obviously he's good at running, but not great. So it will be interesting to see how that pick works out for UR Gold. But you've got Dalvin Cook there, who hopefully Minnesota won't be in as much catch-up as they were in this one. He should arguably be having better days than that, certainly against a not great excuse me, Cincinnati defense. But talking about another Minnesota player that did do well, Adam Thielen, if they do fall behind, they're perfectly set up to get points from somewhere, because only the top 2 options really in that pass offense, that they have the third receiver in Bourne, I think his name is, who did step up a bit, but really Jefferson and Thielen should be leading the charge here. And he had some injury issues last year, but if he's back and healthy and right, he's obviously not too many years removed from a very good fantasy season, so that's good to see. CeeDee Lamb obviously as well was the darling of the preseason, profiled of much hype, and it did deliver in Week 1. He had a bit of a spotty start. If you watch that game, he dropped quite a few balls, but boy, when he got going. So and with that Cowboys D, they're going to be having to keep up in every single game they play probably, so he looked good. But yeah, you know, to compensate for that, Edwards-Helaire and Landry isn't going to be usable probably as much when Beckham does come back. You turn to the bench. You have Mike Williams, which was a nice, good pick in the 8th round there. He looks like he's going to do well in the New York Chargers offense. CJ Hawkinson will be the receiving leader for the Lions team. They basically have no receivers. It's all about tight ends and running backs there, so he's definitely going to step in and do well. But yeah, quite thin on the depth here for UR Gold, and obviously they don't have that good quarterback at the moment. Hopefully Justin Fields emerges for them, but they may have faced the same fate as Gridiron Gang, where they get let down by their quarterback on a given week. Looking at Napolitans, yeah, it's tricky. Barkley, you know, where he was in the 2nd round, it was a value, but he was always going to start the season slowly, and that he did in this one. Brandon Ayuk as well, you know, along with the Trey Sermon inactive, he was the other surprise of the week, where he didn't register a single point or anything there. Seemingly not had a good performance according to Shanahan. Maybe he's trying to light a fire under him, who knows, but Dave will certainly be helping. He does better. George Kittle didn't do particularly a lot in this one either, but that was always going to be the case with the Niners team that was profiled to just stomp the Lions. And then around that, look, Jonathan Taylor, he did good. He should have better days, I would think. Devonta Smith, You know, it was a bit of a risky pick there in the 6th round. Didn't quite know what the Eagles offense would look like. I personally liked him, and it looks like he should be a good player. And Lamar Jackson certainly should be having better days as well. It was a bit turnover prone, and that Raiders D really stepped up on week 1. So 75 points, going to be disappointing for Dave, but I think better days are there. There are obviously concerns. You look to the bench, they at least have Joe Burrow to lean on if Lamar Jackson doesn't get it together. But again, they don't have a lot to turn to. I like Laviska Shenault and Noah Fant. Now the Judy's gone down. They should be 2 usable options for them, but they didn't have good week 1. So yeah, Dave's got some thinking to do, and obviously he brought in Christian Kirk to hopefully bolster the sides. So we'll see how that goes. Okay, to our next and final game of week 1. Then we have Ixan against Bucking the Trend. Final game of week 1, Ixan took on Bucking the Trend. It was a fairly close game, and it had a comeback for the win by Ixan, who won it 93-82 on the Monday night game. Looking down the lineups for Ixan, Josh Allen got 20, Nick Chubb got 20, Josh Jacobs got 16, T. Higgins 12, and Justin Tucker 11. Good team effort to get over that 90-point hurdle and get the W for Bucking the Trend. Fairly good day at the office. Tannehill probably has better days. Didn't look great there in week 1 with 16. Alvin Kamara got 15. Miles Sanders got 13. DK Metcalf 12. Greg Zuerlein 11 and the 49ers. Sorry, Greg Zuerlein 10 and the 49ers the 11. But yeah, as you can see there, quite a few bad performances. A couple, by Julio Jones, who only got 3, and more worryingly, Raheem Mostert, who only got 2. Had he stayed healthy, Bucking the Trend probably take this one, but that's how it shakes sometimes, and they do get the loss. So the history all time of this matchup, Ixan are now 3-1 all time against Bucking the Trend. And yeah, so starting with Ixan there. So Josh Allen, 20 points, and if you watch that game, God, they were really struggling against the Steelers, so 20 points is a good result. He'll certainly be in for some better weeks, you would hope. Nick Chubb looks like everything he should be, everything he was last year, a good solid 20 points there, so he'll have a good season. Josh Jacobs, even though he was pretty much just taped up by bandages to get through that game, still delivered 16 points, though it was 2 touchdowns. You do worry about that, but if he can get healthy, he'll be absolutely fine for the Raiders. T. Higgins as well, he had a nice day. He should be the other solid option there for Cincinnati with 12 points. And then Justin Tucker, that's what he drafted for with 11. I didn't say Damian Harris as well. I missed him. He got 10. He did have that fumble, which you never like to see from a New England running back, but Ramondre Stevenson also fumbled, so shouldn't be a problem hopefully going forward. Mark Andrews also didn't do much there either, which was kind of bizarre with obviously the state of the Ravens offense. So Ixan looks like a solid team. They should be set up well. Marvin Jones is a nice option there on the bench. Aguilar as well, and Brandon Cooks. It's a good solid bench there. Not massive upside, but they've got a lot of players they can turn to and lean on and play the matchups, which is what you like to see. So they're set up very well. On the other side for Bucking the Trend, look, 82 points where, you know, you had a guy go down injured in Mostert and Julio Jones who had a bad day. You look to the bench, Amari Cooper would have won them the game in this one. Chris, if he was here, would probably lament them for not playing him. I can understand it personally. That Bucs defense is obviously very good. Their cornerback did get injured at the start of the game. We didn't know how Dak was going to look. It's just how fantasy goes sometimes. But it's nice that he'll be able to have him going forward. DJ Chark got a touchdown as well, but yeah, obviously that Jags offense didn't look great and they were playing catch up. But Jalen Waddle did look great and he got 12 points. He was another one of my sleeper receivers, so they've got options to turn to. I think this team will be fine going forward. Tannehill's going to have better days. Sanders had a good week 1 against a very bad Atlanta defense, but that's good to see as well. So frustrating week 1, but hey, there's 13 more weeks to go, so plenty of time to turn it around. So if we go onto the Milestone Standings and Stats, then so we take a look at the Southampton division. Everyone's 1-0. That's what happens, or can happen in intra-divisional weeks. So each of these teams won. Palace standing first at the moment, but followed by Benessesti's Dream Team and Ross's team, all based on points. All 4 teams went over 100 points in this one, which was the opposite of the Portsmouth division, who all lost. And the highest points was my team with 87, Gridiron Gang there at the top, followed by Detonators, Bucking the Trend, and Napolitans. And then at the bottom there, Winchester Division was split 50-50. You Are Gold at the top at the moment, and they went over 100 points, followed by Ixana, also 1-0 with 93. Tom's Tyrants, they lost despite scoring that 105, so they're in third, and then Forge Flyers there at the bottom. We won't go down through the other things, maybe just look at the breakdown. Pat obviously takes the lead in week 1 at 10-1, followed by Ben Necessities and the Dream Team as well. So let's get a look at the coach ranking as well. In terms of least points left on the bench, you like to see it with Forge Flyers and Gridiron Gang, Palestine, but then they all had sub 10 point weeks. You look at the bottom there though, Bucking the Trend, which obviously that did cost them the game that Amari could be benching. Ben Necessities, the Dream Team as well, and Ross's team, where he obviously had the Titans go off on his bench. So good week 1 there. We don't have any power rankings at the moment, but keep an eye out for them. And so we will just mosey on to the week 2 previews then. So this week we have Gridiron Gang against Napolitans, so it's a divisional week. The Dream Team against Bare Necessities, Ross's team against Palestine, Detonators against Bucking the Trend, Ixan against Forge Flyers, and Tom's Tyrants against You Are Gold. We have a couple of options for the marquee matchup here. We have Gridiron Gang against Napolitans. It's the newcomer to the league. I obviously recruited him in. We also have, what have we got? The Friendship Bowl in Ixan against Forge Flies, and let's call it the Winchester Bowl in Tom's Tyrants versus You Are Gold. So, where are we going to go? I think we should go with... Let's go with the Friendship Bowl. You love to see it. Forge Flies obviously frustrating week 1. Ixan, okay, week 1 they got the win. So let's do it. So the week 1 marquee matchup. Ixan against Forge Flyers. It's week 2 and Ixan take on Forge Flyers in another chapter of, I did not mean to stop the music there, the Friendship Bowl. Ixan 1-0, Forge Flyers 0-1, they'll be looking to get their first win, and they're projected to do so. They're 98-95. Looking down the lineups, Forge Flyers sticking with Rogers against Detroit. It's a smart move. Elsewhere, they've brought Robert Tunyon into the lineup in favour of Marquise Brown, because Marquise Brown is dealing with an ankle issue at the moment, hasn't practiced for a couple of days. Odell Beckham is out again with that knee issue, so they are turning to Robert Tunyon there. So they are going with 21 personnel, 2 running backs and a tight end, and 2 receivers. 31 personnel, 3 running backs, 1 tight end and a receiver. On the other side of the ball, for Ixan, they have a slightly changed lineup. They've brought Brandon Cooks in favour of Mark Andrews, who had a bad day. So Josh Jacobs is questionable with his litany of injuries, but he should suit up again. So Ixan are rolling out the 30 personnel, 3 running backs and 0 wide receivers there. The history of this matchup all time, Ixan are... they are 4-12 all time against Chris's team, so brutal record. To be honest, I could see that continuing this week. You have Rodgers against Detroit, Derrick Henry against the not great Seattle. As long as Tennessee don't fall behind, that's good. Joe Mixon against Chicago, where Darrell Henderson had a pretty good run day. They are a fairly good run day, I think, but he's that true workhorse back, it seems. Cooper Kupp against Indianapolis, who just got shredded by Russell Wilson. And Cooper Kupp obviously had a nice day against the Bears as well. Robert Tunyon against Detroit, so if Rodgers is slinging it, he'll be in for the points. And then Chris Carson against the Tennessee defense that just got absolutely steamrolled by the Cardinals as well. So, dream matchups on Forge Flyers side of the ball. That week 1 was frustrating. I think they're going to work away all their frustrations here. You've got Ravens D against KC, which isn't ideal, and Succub against Atlanta, which is nice. But let's look at Ixan on their side of the ball. Josh Allen against Miami. Out of the coals into the fire, whatever the phrase is. Josh Allen, tough opening slate defenses wise. Out of the furnace into the fire. Is that it? I don't know. He's playing Miami this week, so that's not an easy matchup. Slightly easier, perhaps. But he might not pile up the points this week. But You don't need to worry about that when you've got Nick Chubb facing Houston. But then you do get a bit more worried when you see a limping Josh Jacobs playing that stout Pittsburgh defense. You've got Brandon Cooks against Cleveland, which Cleveland are a good D. It's probably going to be garbage time production if he does anything, so that's a worry. T. Higgins, though, playing that soft Bears defense, and Damian Harris against the Jets as well, providing Bellatrix doesn't turn up with that running back room. Marquise Brown returned to practice today, so he might actually be an option over Robert Tonyan for Forge Flyers as well. They're in a projected shootout with KC. Speaking of KC, Justin Tucker's kicking against them, but it's Justin Tucker, so who cares? And the Browns D against Houston. So, look, Ben's got some pretty good matchups here as well. Looking to the bench, have they got any other options that they would probably play over anyone? I mean, if Jacobs would have missed the game, or if they just didn't fancy it because it is a tough matchup. You've got Marvin Jones against Denver, probably not looking there. Nelson Aguilar against the Jets, maybe some interest there. You wouldn't be looking at Drake or James Conner, really. Maybe they turn back to Mark Andrews. That would make sense. Again, it does profile to be a shootout. So, it should be, I think this is a good marquee matchup game. This should be an explosive game from both sides for me. Forge Flyers should take it. Aaron Rodgers, He's got to destroy that Detroit defense, surely, hasn't he? And all of the other players there with the nice matchups. Forge Flyers, for me, an absolute lock to go over 100 points this week. They should win in style. I could easily see Ixan going over 100 as well. There's just a few more things to worry about. A little less upside from the quality is on Forge Flyers' side of the ball. I think they do have the slightly better matchups as well. So for me, Forge Flyers are going to take this one. On to our next game then. We have Tom's Tyrants against Your Gold. The Winchester Bowl happens in week 2. Tom's Tyrants against UR Gold. Tom also searching for his first win. Meanwhile, UR Gold currently leading the division and will be hoping to keep it that way. The projections certainly say they will be, as they're projected to win 94-87. Looking down the lineups, they're trotting out Baker Mayfield again. Who can blame them? He's playing Houston. And elsewhere, they are unchanged, so they are still rolling out the 20 personnel, 2 running backs and 3 receivers. On the other side of the wall for Tom's Tyrants, so have they made any changes there? It does not look like they have at the moment, so 2 unchanged lineups at the moment. They are going with 30 personnel, 3 running backs, 2 wide receivers. They've already had a player play though, and Antonio Gibson, he only got 7 points against that Giants defense, so that's a bit concerning. Looking to the bench and injury wise, I think these guys both have a clean bill of health. So the history of this matchup all time, Tom's Tyrants are 4-3 against UR Gold. So let's start on Tom's side of the ball. He obviously didn't have... Well, he had a good week 1, sorry. Unfortunate not to win. And hoping to keep it going here. Not off to a great start with Antonio Gibson. But look, you've got Murray against Minnesota. That's very good. Najee Harris against Vegas. I know he didn't do too much against the Bills defense last week, but and the Raiders defense did look pretty good against the Ravens, but on a short week, they played in overtime, going cross country. I think Najee Harris played 97% of the snaps or something in that game, so he should be in for a good day. Keenan Allen against Dallas, forget about it. He's banked him for at least 10 points there. Deebo Samuel against Philadelphia. I mean, it's tough to evaluate if that Eagles D is good or if the Atlanta offense was just that bad. We'll see on that one. That's okay. In the Myles Gaskin against Buffalo, not a big fan of that at all. At the bottom there, the special teams. Sanders against Buffalo, that's okay. And then the Buccaneers against Atlanta, that's very nice. So looking to the other side of the ball then. Actually, before we do that, looking at the bench, Colton Sutton is an option. I wouldn't surprise me to see him bring him in over Myles Gaskin there, now that he's the leading receiver in that Denver offense. Tyson Williams also a contender to work his way into the lineup, perhaps in that same spot, or maybe over Deebo Samuel. So they've got a few nice options to turn to in those two there as well. Looking to the other side then, UR Gold. They're on with Baker Mayfield again. They spent $18 on Jameis, but completely understand why you'd want to wait a week just to see if he's the real deal or not. Baker's playing Houston, so he should probably hopefully get 2 touchdowns somewhere along the way in that one. You've got Dalvin Cook against Arizona. It's okay. Edwards-Helaire against Baltimore. Yeah, it's okay as well. Thielen against Arizona. I think the Titans were just really bad week 1. That should be fine in the game. The Vikings will probably need to keep up in as well. CeeDee Lamb against the Chargers. I mean, hey, already said Dallas are going to have to be playing catch-up all day long. And Landry against Houston, he should be the number 1 receiver again. So providing they don't take a lead and just run the ball the whole time, he should have a nice day as well. Looking at the bench, they could roll out Winston against Carolina. They're not right now, so we'll see what happens there. Mike Williams against Dallas, that could be an option as well and would be a nice counter to Keenan Allen potentially. Hawkinson against Green Bay, again, the Lions are probably going to be playing catch-up, might get some garbage time. He should be the lead receiver, so Ollie's got some options to turn to as well. But he'd probably be looking to bench a guy like Edwards-Helaire, I would guess. So bold to see whether he would do that. Who do I like in this game? It's honestly a tough call. I think it's tricky because the Antonio Gibson's such a killer for Tom's Tyrants there on the Thursday night game. Harris, Allen and Murray should eat, but then I worry about those 2 other spots. If they bring in Williams and Sutton, that's suddenly looking a lot better. You look on the other side of the ball, as I say, there's just a lot of quality and a lot to like about UR Gold's team, but as I mentioned, Baker and Landry could get erased if they just take the lead and run the ball. Edwards-Helaire could have a troubling day. This is a tough one to call. I think I'm going to lean Tom's Tyrants, just because of that combination of Murray, Harris and Allen. They could explode in this game. And then, the other 2 options that they could bring in, Deebo Samuel's okay as well. The Bucs D against Atlanta. Bears are playing Cincinnati, so it's okay. But yeah, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me to see UR Gold take this, but yeah, it's Tom's Tyrants for me. On to our next game then. It is Gridiron Gang against Napolitans. Gridiron Gang take on Napolitans. Both these teams being in the Portsmouth division looking for their first win, and Gridiron Gang are projected to get it 84-78. Looking down the lineups, Gridiron Gang, they've brought Teddy Bridgewater in for the start this week. He's playing Jacksonville, but the rest of the lineup is unchanged, so they are going with 10 personnel, 1 running back and 4 receivers. It's a spread offense, folks. On the other side of the ball, Napolitans, have they made any changes since last week? They have brought LaVisca Chenault and Noah Fant in over Brandon Ayuk and Devonta Smith. So they will be rolling out the 22 personnel, 2 running backs, 2 tight ends, and a receiver there. And David already has had 7 points as well in this one, but yeah, projected to still lose. So yeah, obviously no history in this matchup as yet. Let's start with Dave's team. So I do think they should have a better week than last week. They're not off to a great start with Barkley getting 7. You always kind of felt that would probably be the case against a tough football team D, especially on a short week where Barkley's still recovering, and he got a lot of those yards on one big run as well, so fortunate to get that. Elsewhere, Jackson's playing against Kansas City. He does typically struggle against Kansas City, certainly has during his previous meetings, but if that offense is going to move with where they are with the running back position at the moment, you think it's got to be him, so I think he could still have a nice day. Jonathan Taylor is playing a pretty good Rams defense. The Montgomery had a nice day, so maybe that's okay. The Colts O-line and offense isn't actually that bad either. George Kittle playing Philadelphia, that's fine. Chenault's playing Denver. It's a tough matchup on paper, but again, it's kind of like whether the Jags fall behind or not, you should get some garbage time even if they do. So we'll see. And then Noah Fant against Jacksonville as well. You've got a lot to like there. Again, kind of similar with the Browns against Houston. You do worry if the Broncos get up to a big lead. Are they just going to run it? So we'll see. And then you've got the Patriots against the Jets, which is really nice there at the bottom. Looking at the bench, they do have Christian Kirk, which they could turn to. It's an option, certainly. They paid a lot of money for him. Not a lot else there really at the moment, and probably wisely benching Devonta Smith against San Francisco. For Gridiron Gang, Teddy Bridgewater, quarterback is an issue for this team at the moment. Teddy's not a sexy option by any means. He had a solid week 1 against the Giants. That's kind of all I'm hoping for here at a solid week 1. I already mentioned about the risk that the Broncos could just get up and then run the ball, so hopefully Teddy gets some points along the way somewhere. Elsewhere, you've got Hopkins against Minnesota. He's going up against old teammate Patrick Peterson, but he's on another level compared to him. Ezekiel is playing a Chargers D. Week 1 Elliott obviously wasn't used much in the game plan. I even saw that Dak was checking out of a lot of run plays at the line of scrimmage just because the defensive front didn't make sense to run against. So it was game plan, his bad game. Chargers run day is as good, but not on the same level. So Zeke should hopefully have a better day here. Certainly in a game where they're going to be needing to score points as well. Robert Woods goes up against Indianapolis. It's concerning for me that Kupp obviously has emerged as the number 1 receiver. I still very firmly believe Woods is, they've always been kind of on parity. They've always had two good receivers on the Rams offense. So I think that 15% target share will go up a bit and it will fluctuate, and Woods will definitely have good days as well. Van Jefferson hopefully won't eat too much into the offense there. We'll just have to see. And AJ Brown, they're playing Seattle. Look, again, didn't have the best of week 1s, but still came out with about 10 points. He's playing Seattle. Titans are probably going to have to keep up, so good there. And then on the other side, Tyler Lockett playing against Tennessee, who just got shredded by Arizona. So a lot to like in the receiver room on my team. I've got the Broncos D against Jacksonville as well, so that's nice to see. Hopefully, even if they do get up a lot, they'll be doing that defensively. So if Teddy doesn't necessarily do great, I might get some compensation there from the Broncos D. Looking at my bench, I could turn to Chase Claypool possibly. I think I'd struggle to get him in over anyone I've got there at the moment. Maybe Robert Woods would be the closest one, but it's a bit of a lottery ticket. Eli Mitchell as well. I'm not playing him this week, or Trey Sermon for that matter. I want to see what happens with that backfield before I do anything with them. Obviously, Jerry Jeudy's on reserve now as well, so that's the only injury news for me. I'm going to go with my team here. Look, I think Dave's team is good. They'll definitely pick up some wins this season. I just think the quality in the players is on my side. The matchups are also probably on my side. Dave's already only got 7 points from Saquon Barkley, so he's already up against it a bit, so I'm going with my team in this one. On to the next game of the week then. We have the Dream Team against Bare Necessities. The Dream Team take on Bare Necessities in this Southampton Division matchup. Both these teams had a win in week 1. Only one will emerge undefeated, and that's projected to be the Dream Team to the tune of 102 to 100. Looking down the lineups for the Dream Team, let's see if they made any changes since last week. They have brought Jamar Chase in for Corey Davis. So they are running out the 20 personnel, 2 running backs and 3 receivers. On the other side of the ball there, Bare Necessities, have they made any changes? Doesn't look like it at the moment, so they're still rolling with 11 personnel. 1 running back, 1 tight end there for them. DeAndre Swift has got that questionable tag. He's obviously still nursing that groin injury and limited in practice, but he should play. Jamal Williams questionable as well, but he should play also. The history of this matchup all time, Bare Necessities are 9-8 against the Dream Team. So this series is pretty well split. Let's start on the Dream Team side of the ball. 17 points already from Terry McLaurin. That's good to see on Thursday night. Justin Herbert and Austin Eckler playing Dallas. Love that. James Robinson playing Denver. Look, Urban Meyer said he's going to be more committed to the run, but if they get down again, they're going to have to go away from it. So that's a worry. Tyreek Hill's playing Baltimore. I don't think that pass is necessarily as scary without Marcus Peters in there, so I think he should be okay. And then Jamar Chase going up against Chicago, which just got abused by the passing game of the Rams, so you would probably think that would continue. Steelers against the Raiders as well. I mentioned the Raiders on a short week, tied from overtime, cross country. Given the Steelers just completely stymied the Bills, could be a rough day at the office ahead for the Raiders there. Looking to the bench, I agree with the Dream Team's with Viv's decision to bench Corey Davis, going up against the tough New England D. Yes, they haven't got Stephon Gilmore at the moment, but JC Jackson's there too. So they've got some. It's still a good defense. And then the other players there, I think it would be tough to make a case to get in. Maybe Javonte Williams if you think that Denver will get up and just run the ball. But obviously, as already said, Melvin Gordon figures to be the leader for the time being. Excuse me. and then I don't think there's any other credible option there. Looking at bare necessity side, Russell Wilson's playing Tennessee. Love that. This should be a great quarterback duel. Stephon Diggs playing Miami. Again, that's not an easy matchup. They've got 3 very good cornerbacks down there in Miami. So we'll see how the Buffalo offense responds. DeAndre Swift against Green Bay. I mean, the Saints just absolutely tore them a new one. And I mentioned about the defensive coordinator there, who's historically had very bad defenses, so maybe that's not awful. I think whether they're in this game or not, Swift should probably actually do okay, because he'll either be getting the garbage time points or just playing in the game as normal. But you do worry about the split with Jamal Williams, who he's also got on the bench as well, so that profiles to be a headache all season long, especially where Swift obviously is a bit injured at the moment too. Kelsey, I mean, he's matchup proof, playing Baltimore on the Sunday night, so you like to see that. Mike Evans playing a really soft Atlanta D, but you know, we saw last week with Tampa excuse me, they had to keep scoring points to stay ahead of Dallas. Are they going to have to do that against Atlanta? I don't think so. But equally, do they trust that run game? You've got Tom Brady there. His short passing game is essentially a run game in itself. So Evans, you know, he could snag a touchdown here and have an okay day. And then you've got Mike Davis against Tampa Bay. I'd be very shocked if my dad decides to roll Mike Davis out. You look to the bench, he's got Melvin Gordon there, he's got Antonio Brown, he could potentially play both Bucs receivers, or maybe even Landon Fournette. God, he's got all the Bucs. And maybe even he doubles up on Jamal Williams, I don't know. I don't think he's going to play Mike Davis. I think it probably would be Melvin Gordon coming in there. In terms of who's going to win this game, I can't look past the Dream Team. We know they're early season darlings. They're already off to a 17-point start. Some of their best players, like the worry is James Robinson here, of course, and Jamar Chase. He had one good game. Will he have another? Time will tell. But there's a lot to like on the Dream Team side of the ball. Bare Necessities is a good team as well. Not saying there isn't a lot to like, but I think the upside for the Dream Team is just higher there. So they're my pick to win this week. On to our next game then. It is Ross's team against Pakistan. Forgot to make a logo, which is Ross's current team name. Takes on Pakistan in this week 2 matchup again. 2 Southampton teams, both have a win, only one will emerge victorious, and that's projected to be Pakistan at the moment, 96-90. Looking at Pat's side of the ball, he is unchanged, I believe, from week 1, so he is still rolling out that 20 personnel, 2 running backs and 3 receivers. On the other side of the ball, Ross's team, they have brought Rob Gronkowski into the lineup over who are they playing? Darrell Henderson. So they are rolling out the. This is a bizarre formation. This is a 2 personnel, 0 running backs and 2 tight ends with 3 receivers. So not often you see that. The history of this matchup all time. Pakistan. Pakistan are 2-4 all time against Ross. So. Let's start on Ross's side, the current champ. Look, he's got Patrick Mahomes. Don't care that he's playing Baltimore. He's still going to have a good day. Devontae Adams, again, I think the Packers are going to be wanting out to redeem themselves after that terrible week 1. He should absolutely eat against Detroit, you would hope. Allen Robinson playing Cincinnati. Obviously, he's facing a far easier matchup than Jalen Ramsey in week 1. I don't think the Bears' offense is that bad, so I think he should have a good day. Darren Waller against Pittsburgh. That's a tough assignment. The Raiders profile to be losing. He is the top option in that offense, so he could still come out with a decent day. Sterling Shepard got them 9 points on Thursday night, so that's okay. And then Rob Gronkowski against Atlanta. Kind of the same thing applies here to what I said about Mike Evans. The risk is they get up and they don't pass a lot, but he could certainly be involved on course to that, so... and he obviously had a tremendous week 1. Looking to their bench options, they obviously didn't play Logan Thomas, which was a good decision. There's no one there particularly enticing to go to. I see why they've benched Darrell Henderson. Indy's D is fairly good, certainly against the run as well, so I can see that. And Gronk obviously did have a good week 1 there. Bills D playing Miami. Don't love that either. It's okay. Nothing special. Looking at Pakistan's side of the ball, injury-wise as well, clean bill of health there for Ross's team. So yeah, looking at Pakistan, Brady against Atlanta, yeah, forget about it. He's going to have a great day, I think. or at worst, he'll get a couple of touchdowns and then just hand it off for the rest of the day, but I think he'll be fine. McCaffrey playing a good New Orleans defense, but it's Christian McCaffrey, who cares? Montgomery's playing Cincinnati, I like that. I like Montgomery as a prospect. What we saw in week 1 is good. DJ Moore's playing New Orleans. They are without Marshall Lattimore. I believe one of their linemen or linebackers got injured as well, so perhaps he could have a decent day. Jefferson's playing Atlanta. Again, Minnesota profile to have to keep up in this game. It was Steelers last week. Jefferson's going to score points as well. And then Chris Godwin, apply what I already said about all the Tampa Bay players. Someone's going to get them, and even if he doesn't, Brady's still throwing the ones, so that's a good insurance there. They did only get 5 points from the Washington defense on Friday night, so that's a concern. Who do I think is going to win this game? You got to think both these quarterbacks are going to have a tremendous day, but they're probably going to counteract each other, and then the other players there. Yeah, they've both got good teams. Skill-wise, I think Patterson has the better talent pool there, but Devontae Adams and Allen Robinson are a good combo. I think I'm going to go with Patterson in this one. Brady's going to have a good day. McCaffrey should have a good day. He is that number 1 overall draft pick. As should Montgomery. Moore should do something. Jefferson should do something. And hopefully Godwin will do something. Wouldn't surprise me to see Ross's team win. But you've got Waller there in a tough matchup. Shepard didn't do a great deal on Thursday night. 9 points isn't going to kill you. Gronk might not be as involved as he was week 1. Mahomes, could he have a bit of a blip against Baltimore? I don't know. It's a close one for me, but I'm going with Patterson. And then the final game of week 2 then, it's Detonators against Bucking the Trend. But Detonators take on Bucking the Trend in this Portsmouth Division matchup in week 2. Both teams searching for their first win, and Bucking the Trend expected to get it profiled to win 98-93. Looking down the lineups in terms of changes for Bucking the Trend, Amari Cooper comes into the lineup after his stellar week 1, which forces Raheem Mostert to the bench, but obviously he's been dropped because of that injury. No other injury news on that side of the ball. So Bucking the Trend are rolling out 20 personnel, 2 running backs and 3 receivers. On the other side of the ball for the Detonators, are they changed at all? I don't believe they are from week 1. Oh no, sorry, I think they've brought in Donnell Mooney over Robbie Anderson. I think that is the only change there for them. So they are rolling out the 20 personnel as well, 2 running backs and 3 receivers. The history all time of this matchup, the Detonators or Bucking the Trend are, well, it's 1-1 at split. So a split matchup in the history, both teams searching for their first win. Let's start with the Detonators, who will be a bit disappointed in week 1. They've got Prescott against the Chargers, very good. Jones against Detroit, I would say lock him in for 20 points. I know that's quite a lot, but I think, they're going to, whether they get up or not, he should be involved the whole game, so he should have a good day there. Edmonds against Minnesota, we saw an okay outing from Edmonds in week 1, so we'll see. But the Vikings defense isn't great. Ridley against Tampa Bay, it's a worry how bad Atlanta were in week 1. I don't know if Tampa Bay's corner will be back, but you hope Ridley would do better, but it's tough to have a lot of confidence in that Falcons offense at the moment. Deontay Johnson against Las Vegas, he's the highest targeted receiver in that offense. Is there a position where Steelers just get up and run the ball completely, but he could have an okay day? And then Darnell Mooney against Cincinnati, we need to see another, we need to see the Bears support another receiver to have full confidence that Mooney is going to be able to have a good day, but he had a really good preseason by all accounts. So he could have a good day here in the Packers against Detroit. I think it was wise to stick with them despite how poor they looked in week 1. I don't think they could probably really turn to anyone there at the bottom, so I agree with where they're going. On the other side of the ball, Bucking the Trend, Tannehill didn't do great in week 1, but he's got a nice matchup in Seattle. You would hope they'd look better than they did last week. Maybe utilise the play action a bit more than they did, which is what they did last year and is how they've had their success. Excuse me. Alvin Kamara playing Carolina. It's good. Very good. Miles Sanders against San Francisco. That's good. That's a tough defense. He obviously did okay against the soft Atlanta defense in week 1, so that's a concern for me there. Julio Jones against Seattle. That should be good. I'd like to think it was just a week 1 blip for the entire offense. That profiles to be a shootout, so he should have a good day. Same for DK against Tennessee. And Amari Cooper, he's got Dak on the other side, so that's a nice counter. And as I said, they should be passing in stuff to keep up in that game, so I like Cooper there as well. Niners D against Philly. Hurts look pretty good in week 1, but you know, the Niners D is pretty good, so we'll see on that one. Who do I like to win in this one? I think it's tough to call because Prescott and Jones should have really good days, but I don't have a lot of confidence in anyone else there for the Detonators. Meanwhile, I'm bucking the trend. I think it's a solid matchup. The only thing I don't like is Miles Sanders. Who could he turn to on the bench? Let's take a look. There's no one he could really turn to, so I see why they're sticking with him. I think I'm going to go bucking the trend. You know, just talent-wise, I think he's a bit better. You've got some superstar players on the Detonators side of the ball, but I'm really worried about Ridley at the moment. So you're really looking for Prescott and Jones to lead the way. I think there's just more players to like this particular week up against bucking the trend. I still think the Detonators will come good, but in this particular game, I just like the look of bucking the trend. So they're going to take the lead in the series for me and get their first win of the season. So that is the final of the previews. I appreciate a solo pod isn't as fun as normal, but thank you for listening if you did make it this far. So we'll sign off like I normally do. So have a great weekend when you get there. Best of luck in your matchups, unless you're playing me, of course. Goodbye.